again. I thought today we'd talk about feeding your greyhound. In my role as welfare coordinator at Greyhound Trust Hall Green, I get a lot of questions about feeding. The dogs at the kennels are fed on kibble and they have that twice a day. We divide it into 2 meals because that reduces the risk of overloading the stomach, which can lead to bloat. And we use a brand of kibble that has a fairly low protein content. If you decide you want to change to another kibble when you have adopted the dog, then I would suggest you go for something with 20 or 22% protein, not much more than that, because if we increase the protein, the dog can become really quite excitable. You might also want to add some things to that, such as chicken or fish. Tin sardines are popular. You could also add some cheese if your dog is not lactose intolerant. And you might even add table scraps, but do be careful about the salt content because the food is already balanced, and if you add more salt, that can cause problems for the dog later on in life. I think it's about time to go and make some food for my dogs now, so let's go inside and get that ready. So it's time to sort out their food. I feed my dogs twice a day and they eat kibble, and we're just going to get that organised now. Okay, so I've got the kibble already in the bowls. I'm going to add some plakoff, which is a type of seaweed that helps to clean the tartar from their teeth, and they're just having 2 scoops each of that. I also give them some salmon oil once a day, which helps to provide omega-3, 6 and 9, which is great for their coat and skin. And they're having 3 squirts of that, which is 6 mils. They're going to have a little bit of tinned food, and we'll sort that out next. I just put a spoonful in, and that mixes up with the warm water and helps make a kind of gravy. Okay, so that's that. And today we're going to have some sardines. So they have sardines once a week, and they're just having a tin between them, so they get kind of about 3/4 of a fish each. I don't give too much at once because that tends to cause upset tummies. Better to have a little bit more often than too much. And then the last thing is some warm water, just warmed in the kettle, and I'm going to rinse this tin out. So add that in, that as well. And we'll mix that all up. Right, so that's about ready to serve now. So as you saw in that last clip, my dogs eat from raised stands, and it's best to feed a greyhound with the bowl raised up off the floor because this reduces the risk of strain on their neck and on their shoulders, which can lead to arthritis later in life, or indeed if the dog already has arthritis, it could make it uncomfortable for them to eat. It also helps to reduce the risk of bloat, which can be caused by reaching down to the floor. Because as you can imagine, if they have to swallow food with their head down on the floor, then the food is actually travelling upwards to get to the stomach. If you find your dog gets an upset tummy, then I would look at changing to a very bland diet for a few days. It's not uncommon when a dog first goes home that they struggle with loose stools because of the stress of all the change that's going on. You might move them onto tinned chappie and rice or oats for a few days. You could add a probiotic to see if that helps settle down the gut flora. And then if things are looking better, begin to slowly reintroduce the kibble. If it's not sorting itself out, then of course take extra advice or take the dog to the vet. Most people like to feed treats as well as their usual meal, and to start with I would feed treats that are really quite bland and look quite boring. So things like gravy bones or marrowbone rolls or shakes, plain biscuits without too much fat content. If you feed them something like a pig's ear that's very fatty, the dog's probably going to enjoy eating it, but you might not be so keen on what happens later on. Okay. So I think that pretty much covers the basics of feeding your Greyhound. If you have any questions, please get in touch and I'll see what I can do to help.